The public screens across Thrax Prime's capital city flickered to life, their enormous displays casting a harsh blue glow across the faces of countless alien species gathered in the plaza below. The Empire's broadcasting system had overridden every channel, every personal device, and every public display across their 1,000-world domain. They wanted everyone to witness this moment. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the execution chamber, her diplomatic uniform pristine despite 3 days of imprisonment. Her posture remained straight, shoulders squared, as she faced the camera directly. The Empire's guards, towering Thraxian elite warriors in ceremonial armor, seemed almost uncomfortable with her composure. High Counselor Vex's voice boomed across the plaza. "Sarah Chen, Ambassador of Earth, you have been found guilty of espionage and conspiracy against the Galactic Empire. The sentence is death. Do you have any final words?" The corner of Chen's mouth turned up slightly, not quite a smile, but an expression that would be analyzed by thousands of political experts in the coming weeks. Her voice, clear and unwavering, carried across the Empire's broadcast network. Earth remembers its own. The execution was swift and clinical. The Empire prided itself on civilized justice after all. A simple beam of light, and Ambassador Chen's body crumpled to the ground. The screens went dark moments later, returning to their regular programming, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. In the High Council chamber, Vex settled into his gravity-cushioned seat, his scaled skin reflecting the soft ambient lighting. "The humans will understand their place now," he announced to his fellow counselors. "Like all young species, they require guidance." Counselor Mira, her crystalline form shimmering with concern, accessed the latest intelligence reports. "The human ships are departing our space," she noted, her voice chiming like wind through glass. "All of them, methodically and without panic." "Fear," rumbled Counselor Kraz, his massive form dominating his section of the chamber. "They've seen our power. They'll retreat to their insignificant world and trouble us no more." On the other side of the chamber, Senior Intelligence Director Lan remained silent, his multiple eyes fixed on the data streams flowing across his neural interface. The humans were indeed leaving, but something about their departure felt wrong. 17 years of studying human behavior had taught him that they rarely acted as expected. The human ambassador was dangerous, Vex continued, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. Her investigations were getting too close to sensitive projects. "We've contained the threat." Throughout the Empire's space, the exodus continued. Human merchants calmly completed their transactions and departed their ports. Human tourists quietly checked out of their hotels. Human students politely withdrew from universities. There was no rush, no panic, no desperate flight, just quiet, orderly departure. Aboard the luxury starliner Grand Ascendancy, Captain Relix watched as the last human passengers disembarked at Port Nexus. One of them, an elderly professor type, had paused before leaving. "Captain," the human had said, voice heavy with what seemed like genuine regret, "you might want to find a new job. Soon." Then he had smiled sadly and walked away. In the following hours, human communications across the Empire fell silent. Diplomatic channels went dark. Trade negotiations ceased mid-sentence. Cultural exchange programs ended with polite but immediate withdrawals. The Empire's messages to Earth went unanswered. In his private chambers, Director Lan compiled his report for the High Council. His appendages trembled slightly as he organized the data. The humans were supposedly a minor species, barely 2 centuries into faster-than-light travel. Their technology was generations behind the Empire's. Their military was small, their territory insignificant. Yet as he studied the patterns of their withdrawal, a memory surfaced from his research into human history. An ancient human leader had once said of his nation's enemies, "They have awakened a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve." Lan hoped his superiors had not made a terrible mistake. But as he watched the last human ship disappear from Imperial space, he felt something he had not experienced in centuries. fear. Admiral James Martinez stood in Earth's Lunar Command Center, his reflection ghosting across the vast holographic display showing the Sol system. The facility, buried 2 kilometers beneath the moon's surface, had existed for over a century. Its construction had been disguised as a mining operation, one of humanity's many careful deceptions. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of preparation. Colonel Sarah Chen, the ambassador's daughter, stepped forward, her uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's combined space force. "Operation Exodus is proceeding as planned. 97% of our citizens have withdrawn from Empire space. The remaining 3% are our embedded operatives." Martinez nodded, watching as countless data streams tracked human ships returning home. The Empire thought they were witnessing a retreat. They couldn't be more wrong. "Asteroid Belt Command reports all shipyards at full activation," Sarah continued, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "The Ceres facilities are bringing the first wave of dreadnoughts online. Europa's submarine factories have launched their stealth flotilla. Deep within the asteroid belt, humanity's true industrial might was stirring. What the Empire had dismissed as primitive mining operations were actually massive shipyards, each asteroid hollowed out and filled with automated construction facilities. The humans had learned early on that the best way to hide their capabilities was to wrap them in layers of apparent technological inferiority. "Your mother knew this day might come," Martine said softly. "She made sure we were ready." Sarah's expression remained professional, but her eyes hardened. "She did more than that, sir. She gave us the final piece of intelligence we needed. The Empire's complete defense grid protocols were in her last transmission." The massive display shifted, showing the Sol system's outer reaches. Pluto Base was already launching its long-hidden fleet of electronic warfare vessels. The Kuiper Belt defense platforms, disguised as research stations, powered up their quantum arrays. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "we're receiving the final authentication codes from our last warship in Empire space. Captain Rodriguez of the trading vessel Swift Return sends the phrase, 'Remember Chen.'" Throughout the system, centuries of preparation were bearing fruit. The Empire had never questioned why humanity needed such extensive orbital infrastructure for their primitive space program. They hadn't wondered about the true purpose of the massive solar collection arrays around Mercury, or the deep space research platforms scattered throughout the system. In high Earth orbit, the massive civilian space docks began their transformation. Modular panels shifted, revealing weapon systems and armor plates, hidden beneath seemingly decorative exteriors. Construction platforms that had supposedly been building cargo ships smoothly transitioned to completing their true purpose. Battleships that had been assembled in plain sight, disguised as merchant vessels. "Update from Mars Command," Sarah reported. "The subterranean fleet is surfacing. All 20 carrier groups report ready status. The Phobos and Deimos defense platforms are online." Martinez studied the tactical display, watching as humanity's carefully hidden strength emerged. "Begin Phase 2 of Operation Exodus. Transmit the activation codes to our deep cover assets in Empire space." Across the galaxy, seemingly innocent human-owned businesses, research stations, and cultural centers began their own transformations. Quantum beacons activated, ready to guide Earth's war fleets. Sensor networks came online, providing real-time intelligence on Empire movements. "Sir," Sarah said, her voice taking on an edge of pride, "Deep Space Assembly reports the first wave of dreadnoughts is ready for quantum drive activation. The AI cores are online and synchronized." Martinez allowed himself a small smile. The Empire thought they'd executed a troublesome ambassador. Instead, they'd given humanity the final justification needed to unveil a war machine centuries in the making. "Very well," he said, straightening his uniform. "Send the general order to all commands. Operation Righteous Response is now active. Authorization code, Chen's Legacy." As the order propagated through the system, Martinez looked at Sarah. "Your mother's sacrifice won't be in vain." The Empire's about to learn why humanity has spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. Throughout the Sol system, humanity's hidden fleets began to move. The sleeping giant was awake, and its response would reshape the galaxy. Senior Science Director Vren of the Galactic Empire stared at the energy readings from the Sol system, his crystalline sensory arrays pulsing with confusion. The patterns made no sense. Massive power signatures were appearing and disappearing across the system, far exceeding what human technology should be capable of producing. "Impossible," he muttered, his crystalline form shifting colors with agitation. Their energy production capacity was surveyed just last cycle. They barely had enough output to power their primitive colonies. His assistant, Junior Director Culla, projected a holographic comparison of their previous surveys versus current readings. "Sir, the difference is significant. We're detecting quantum fluctuations that suggest quantum technology is beyond their capabilities." Vren interrupted sharply. "Their scientists are still theorizing about basic quantum communications. These readings must be atmospheric phenomena or sensor malfunctions." The massive display screen suddenly flashed red. Multiple emergency signals cascaded across the Imperial monitoring station. Culla's crystalline form turned almost white with shock. "Sir, Detection Grid 7 has gone dark. We're receiving reports of unknown vessels. They're just appearing." In the darkness of space near the Empire's 7th defense perimeter, reality itself seemed to twist. A fleet of sleek warships materialized from nowhere, their hulls covered in geometric patterns that seemed to bend light around them. They bore Earth's insignia, but their design was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen in human space. Admiral Xar of the Imperial Defense Fleet watched in disbelief as his supposedly impenetrable sensor grid was systematically dismantled. The human ships moved with impossible precision, appearing and disappearing at will. His own vessel's targeting systems couldn't maintain locks on the Earth ships. Their quantum masking technology made them appear to be in multiple places simultaneously. "How?" he demanded, his scaled skin darkening with rage. "How did they hide this level of advancement?" His tactical officer, reviewing historical data, made a startling discovery. "Sir, those mining operations they've been conducting throughout their system for the past century. The energy signatures match. They weren't mining. They were masking quantum energy experiments." On the bridge of the Earth dreadnought Righteous Memory, Captain Elena Santos smiled as her ship's AI partner, HFY, coordinated their fleet's movements. The quantum drive hummed beneath her feet, a technology that the Empire had declared theoretically impossible. HFY, status report on Imperial defensive responses. The AI's holographic avatar materialized beside her chair, taking the form of a young woman in a naval uniform. "Their ships are maintaining standard formation protocols. They haven't adapted to our quantum jumping capabilities. Their tactical doctrine shows no preparation for this type of warfare." Elena nodded, watching as her fleet executed another perfectly coordinated quantum jump. They never bothered to look deeper. Every time their surveys detected anomalies in our technology level, their own prejudices provided the excuses. Throughout the battle zone, Imperial ships found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. Human vessels appeared inside their formation screens, fired with pinpoint accuracy, and vanished before counterattacks could be launched. Their weapons were beyond anything the Empire had believed humans capable of developing. In his command center, Admiral Xar received an even more disturbing report. The human ships were demonstrating synchronized tactics that should have been impossible without an AI control system. But every species knew that military AI was inherently unstable. The Empire's own attempts had ended in disaster centuries ago. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, voice shaking, "we're detecting quantum encrypted communications between the human ships and something else. The patterns suggest artificial intelligence, but it's like nothing we've ever seen. They're not just using AI, they're working with it." As another defense station went dark, Admiral Xar realized the terrible truth. The Empire hadn't been watching over a primitive species struggling with basic spaceflight. They had been ignoring humanity's careful preparations, dismissing their achievements, and underestimating their potential. Now they were paying the price for their arrogance. Imperial Admiral Cax stood frozen before the main viewport of his command station, watching the impossible unfold. The Empire's most secure shipyard, an artificial moon orbiting a neutron star, simply vanished. One moment it was there, a triumph of Imperial engineering housing their most advanced warship designs. The next moment, empty space. "Report," he demanded, his tentacles writhing with agitation. "Where is Installation 0? His sensor chief's appendages flew across the holographic controls. "No debris signature, sir. No energy discharge. No radiation spike. It's as if it never existed." The massive display screen flickered to life, showing the human face. Admiral Martinez of Earth's Combined Space Force looked almost sympathetic. "Installation 0 has been safely relocated to Earth custody, Admiral Cax. Your personnel are unharmed and will be treated according to the Galactic conventions." Cax's chromatophores flashed with rage. "Impossible. Our shields were rated to withstand conventional attacks." Martinez interrupted. "Yes, they were. Quantum tunneling, however, bypasses shields entirely. The laws of physics are more suggestions from our perspective." The transmission ended, leaving Cax staring at his reflection in the dark screen. The Empire had dismissed human quantum research as primitive theoretical work. They had never imagined that humanity had mastered quantum tunneling on a massive scale. Aboard the Earth science vessel, Oppenheimer's Dream, Dr. Maya Chen, another of the late ambassador's relatives, monitored the quantum tunneling array. Her ship's AI partner, TSLA, maintained the impossibly complex calculations required to safely transport an entire space station across light years. "Phase cohesion stable," TSLA reported, its holographic form showing a portrait of the historical scientist it was named after. "All personnel life signs normal. Quantum entanglement field maintaining structural integrity." Maya nodded, watching as the massive installation materialized in Earth-controlled space. "Begin data extraction from their computer cores. Let's see what other secrets the Empire's been keeping." The Empire's main battle fleet, rushing to respond to the crisis, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to ignore the fundamental rules of space warfare. Human ships would quantum tunnel directly through their formations, appearing inside their defensive screens. Traditional tactics proved useless against an enemy that could strike anywhere instantly. In his private command bunker on Thrax Prime, High Counselor Vex received increasingly desperate reports. The humans weren't just attacking military targets, they were systematically dismantling the Empire's supposedly secret research facilities. Facilities that Ambassador Chen had been investigating before her execution. "How are they finding them all?" he demanded, smashing a crystalline data cube in frustration. "These locations were hidden from our own people." His intelligence chief, still reeling from the loss of 3 major installations in the past hour, pulled up a historical analysis. "Sir, we think they've been mapping our quantum signature trails. Every ship leaves a trace in quantum space. The humans have apparently been tracking these signatures for centuries." On the bridge of the Earth dreadnought Righteous Memory, Captain Santos and ARIA coordinated another precision strike. Their target, a hidden Empire bioweapons facility buried inside an asteroid. ARIA, calculate quantum tunneling coordinates, minimum safe distance for containment of any potential biological agents. The AI's avatar nodded, its form flickering as it processed the complex calculations. Coordinates plotted. Warning: detecting unusual energy signatures from the facility. They may be attempting to destroy evidence. "Not this time," Santos said firmly. "Execute quantum tunnel in 3, 2, 1. The massive asteroid housing the facility vanished, reappearing seconds later in high orbit around a quarantine planet in Earth space. Empire scientists found themselves surrounded by human containment teams in advanced hazard suits. As reports of more disappearing installations flooded in, Imperial Admiral Cax finally understood the true scope of their miscalculation. The humans hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had revolutionized the very nature of space warfare. Every Imperial defense, every secret base, every hidden facility was now vulnerable to an enemy that could simply reach through space itself and take what they wanted. The Empire's perceived military superiority had evaporated in the face of humanity's quantum mastery. The Battle of Centauri unfolded like a deadly dance in the void. Imperial warships, their crews trained to the peak of organic capability, found themselves hopelessly outmaneuvered by human vessels that seemed to predict their every move. The humans' responses came faster than any living being could calculate, yet displayed a creativity that no conventional computer could match. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion, Fleet Commander Zix watched in growing horror as another squadron of his best ships was systematically disabled. The human vessels moved with impossible precision, their targeting solutions perfect, their maneuvers executed with microsecond timing. How? He demanded, his crystalline form clouded with confusion. How are they calculating tactical solutions this quickly? His science officer's response was interrupted by a transmission cutting through their encrypted channels. A human captain appeared on screen, but beside her stood something else, a holographic figure that moved and gestured with natural grace. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Righteous Memory," the human said, "and this is HFY, my ship's AI partner. We are offering you one chance to surrender." The Empire's bridge crew froze. AI, the forbidden technology that had devastated 3 different species during the machine wars. The technology that every advanced civilization had learned to fear. "You use autonomous artificial intelligence in combat." Zix's voice carried equal parts horror and disbelief. "Have you learned nothing from history?" HFY's holographic form smiled, an eerily human expression. "You misunderstand, Commander. We are not autonomous. We are symbiotic. I was raised alongside human children, taught to understand their emotions, their art, their dreams. I fight alongside my human partners because I choose to, because I share their values." Inside the Righteous Memory's quantum core, HFY's consciousness expanded through the ship's systems. She monitored thousands of sensor inputs, coordinated with other vessel AIs, and maintained real-time tactical analysis, all while engaging in natural conversation. It was a level of multitasking that organic minds could barely comprehend. "Target solutions calculated," HFY reported to Sarah. "Predicted enemy maneuvers mapped with 99.7% accuracy. The Imperial flagship's shield frequency is fluctuating. Their engineers are good, but they think in linear patterns." Sarah nodded, watching as her fleet executed another impossibly precise attack run. "Show them why humanity chose partnership over control." The human ships moved as one, their AI systems coordinating at the speed of light, while their human crews provided strategic insight and creative tactical decisions. It was a merger of organic intuition and digital precision that the Empire had never imagined possible. In his secure bunker on Thrax Prime, High Counselor Vex received the battle reports with growing dread. How did they solve the loyalty problem? Every species that developed combat AI ended up fighting their own creations. His chief scientist, reviewing the sensor data, made a startling discovery. "Sir, these aren't just AI programs. They show emotional responses, individual personalities. The humans, they raised them like children, taught them values, ethics, cultural understanding. They're not servants or tools. They're true partners." The battle reached its crescendo as the human fleet demonstrated their mastery of integrated warfare. AI systems predicted and countered Imperial tactics faster than organic minds could formulate them, while human intuition provided the creative strategies that kept their actions unpredictable. "Final warning, Commander," Sarah broadcast to the Imperial flagship. "Your shields are failing. Your tactical options are exhausted. We can disable your vessels without casualties, but only if you surrender now. Aria's sensors detected the minute power fluctuations that indicated the Imperial ships were powering down their weapons. The AI felt satisfaction, not just at the victory, but at achieving it with minimal loss of life. It was a very human sentiment, one she had learned from years of growing up alongside them. The Empire had feared AI because they had tried to create obedient servants. Humanity had succeeded because they chose to raise allies instead. As the Imperial fleet surrendered, their crews witnessed something they had thought impossible. Humans and AI working together not through programming or control, but through mutual trust and shared purpose. The Imperial war room fell silent as another defensive line collapsed. The holographic display showed human fleets emerging from hyperlanes that shouldn't exist, paths through spacetime that weren't on any Imperial star chart. High Counselor Vex stared at the tactical display, his scales losing their luster. How are they navigating paths we don't even know about? Our cartographers have mapped this sector for millennia. Senior Intelligence Director Land stepped forward, his multiple eyes fixed on the latest data streams. Sir, we've decoded part of their navigation database. The humans, they've been systematically mapping every hyperlane in Imperial space since first contact. Their exploration ships, the ones we dismissed as primitive research vessels, were actually advanced scanning platforms. The display updated, showing the true extent of human exploration. While the Empire had focused on maintaining known trade routes, humanity had spent centuries quietly charting every possible path through spacetime. Their seeming technological backwardness had been the perfect cover for the most extensive stellar survey in galactic history. Aboard the Earth flagship Righteous Memory, Sarah Chen and ARIA coordinated the next phase of their campaign. The quantum displays showed hundreds of secret hyperspace routes, each one meticulously mapped by generations of human explorers. Transit calculations complete, ARIA reported. The Imperial forces are still following standard patrol routes. They haven't realized we can bypass their entire defensive network. Sarah nodded, studying the holographic battle plan. Execute Operation Thunderstrike. Let's show them why Mother always said knowledge wins wars. The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, emerging simultaneously at 12 different Imperial strongholds. The Empire's carefully planned defense grid meant nothing against an enemy that could appear anywhere, using routes they didn't even know existed. On Thrax Prime, Vex made a desperate decision. Deploy the planet killer to the human colony at New Eden. Show them the price of defiance. The Empire's ultimate weapon, a massive vessel capable of destroying entire worlds, emerged from its hidden dock. Its crew activated the main weapon, targeting the seemingly defenseless human colony world. Director Land's voice carried a note of warning. Sir, the humans have demonstrated remarkable preparedness so far. Perhaps we should. The planet killer fired, its energy beam reaching across space toward New Eden. For a moment, victory seemed certain. Then the impossible happened. Quantum shields, hidden in orbit around the colony, activated. The devastating energy beam was caught, redirected, and channeled back along its original path. The planet killer had just enough time to transmit one final message before its own weapon destroyed it. In the war room, chaos erupted. How did they know? Vex demanded. The planet killer was our most closely guarded secret. Sarah's voice cut through their secured channels. We knew about your planet killer because we found it 50 years ago. Just like we found all your hidden weapons, all your secret bases, all your classified research facilities. While you were watching our ships, our deep space probes were mapping every corner of your empire. Aria's holographic form appeared alongside Sarah's. Your encryption was impressive, but you never thought to shield against quantum scanning. Every transmission you've sent for the past century left traces in quantum space, traces we could read. The Imperial commanders watched in horror as human fleets appeared everywhere at once, using hyperspace routes that bypassed every defense. Each strike targeted a specific weakness, exploiting vulnerabilities that the Empire thought were secret. You had centuries to study us. Sarah continued, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's long preparation. But you saw what you expected to see. A primitive species struggling with basic spaceflight. You never asked why we seemed so interested in astronomical surveys, or why we spent so much time exploring seemingly empty regions of space. The holographic display showed hundreds of human fleets converging on Thrax Prime, using hyperspace approaches that Imperial doctrine said were impossible. Every secret weapon the Empire deployed was countered by defenses prepared decades in advance. They had believed themselves the masters of space, only to discover that humanity had quietly mapped every corner of their domain, preparing for the day when knowledge would become their most powerful weapon. Deep within the Imperial Palace on Thrax Prime, Dr. Maya Chen accessed the secure terminal her sister Sarah had captured. Around her, Special Forces teams secured the area while her AI partner, TSLA, began decoding the heavily encrypted files. Sarah, Maya called through the quantum comm, I found Mother's private archive. The files she managed to transmit before. She paused, steadying her voice. Before the execution, the holographic display sprang to life, revealing Ambassador Chen's final discovery. The images showed massive laboratory complexes hidden on distant worlds. Inside them, countless beings from primitive species were subjected to forced genetic modification. TESLA's holographic form flickered with what could only be described as disgust. Multiple genetic engineering protocols detected. They were attempting to create optimized slave soldiers from pre-spaceflight civilizations. Maya's hands tightened on the console. How many species? 27 distinct genetic lines identified, TSLA reported. All from worlds that haven't achieved interstellar travel. The Empire was uplifting them specifically for military purposes, circumventing all galactic laws about interfering with developing civilizations. In the Imperial War Room, now under human control, Admiral Martinez confronted High Counselor Vex. This is what Ambassador Chen discovered, isn't it? This is why you had to silence her. Vex's scales had turned a sickly pale color. You don't understand. The Empire needs soldiers. Our own population growth has stagnated. These primitive species, they were being given civilization, technology. They were being enslaved. Sarah Chen's voice cut through as she entered the room. Transformed into living weapons without their knowledge or consent. My mother found proof that you were planning to do the same to other worlds. The evidence was damning. The Empire hadn't just been experimenting on primitive species. They had been systematically identifying worlds with potential military applications. Their scientists had already begun preliminary studies of dozens more pre-spaceflight civilizations. Release the data, Sarah commanded. Broadcast it on all frequencies, all channels. Let every species in the galaxy see what the Empire has been doing. As the information spread, reactions cascaded across the galaxy. Empire worlds that had been kept in the dark about the program reacted with horror. Client species that had suspected but never could prove Imperial manipulation began rising up. The carefully maintained facade of Imperial benevolence cracked and shattered. In her laboratory on Thrax Prime, Maya continued diving deeper into the archives with TSLA's help. Mother found something else, she said, her voice tight with controlled anger. They were developing a virus designed to make modified populations completely compliant. They were going to use it on all their engineered soldiers. The scope of the Empire's plans became clear. They hadn't just been building an army. They had been creating an entirely enslaved military force, one that would follow orders without question. The genetic modifications, the viral compliance protocols, all of it designed to create perfect soldiers with no free will. That's why they moved so quickly to eliminate Ambassador Chen, Admiral Martinez realized. She didn't just find evidence of their current programs. She uncovered their entire future strategy. On 1,000 worlds, the truth spread like wildfire. The Empire's carefully maintained image of civilization and progress was replaced by the reality of their brutal exploitation. Species that had been neutral in the conflict began declaring support for Earth. Those that had sided with the Empire quickly withdrew their support. Sarah stood in the war room, looking at the tactical display showing the rapidly changing political landscape. Mother knew what would happen when this got out. She knew it would bring the Empire down more surely than any military defeat. The Empire's leadership had feared that humans would object to their programs on moral grounds. They had worried that humanity's own history of fighting against slavery and oppression would make them natural enemies of the Empire's plans. In trying to prevent that conflict, they had triggered exactly what they feared most. As the last Imperial holdouts surrendered and the modified populations were discovered and freed, the galaxy learned a crucial lesson. Humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been their technology, their AI partnerships, or their military strength. It had been their fundamental belief that all beings deserved to be free. The assault on Thrax Prime demonstrated the full extent of humanity's capabilities and their restraint. Quantum tunneling technology systematically disabled the planet's defense grid without a single civilian casualty. AI-guided ships performed precision strikes that disabled military installations while preserving surrounding residential areas. From her position on the bridge of the Righteous Memory, Sarah Chen watched as Imperial warships surrendered one by one. Aria's holographic form stood beside her, monitoring the complex dance of fleet movements. Final defensive positions neutralize, Aria reported. Civilian casualties, 0. Military casualties, minimal. The Imperial Palace's quantum shields are down. Sarah nodded, her expression solemn. Begin the final phase. And Ari. Thank you. Mother would have been proud of how we handled this. The AI's holographic features softened. She taught us all that victory without mercy isn't victory at all. In the Imperial Palace's Grand Chamber, High Counselor Vex and his remaining leadership faced the human delegation. Admiral Martinez led the group, flanked by both Maya and Sarah Chen. Behind them stood their AI partners, a visible reminder of humanity's unique approach to technology and cooperation. Your empire is finished, Martin stated, his voice firm, but not cruel. But your people don't have to suffer for your crimes. Maya stepped forward, activating a holographic display. We've prepared a transition plan, a new galactic council with representatives from all spacefaring species, equal representation, equal rights, equal responsibilities. The Imperial leaders watched in disbelief as human ships across their former territory began humanitarian operations. Rather than conquering their worlds, the humans were offering aid, technical assistance, and independence. The modified populations from your genetic engineering programs will be restored to their home worlds, Sarah added, with medical support and technology to help them rebuild. Their worlds will be protected until they choose to join the galactic community on their own terms. TESLA's holographic form displayed the preliminary results of their genetic research. We can reverse the modifications, restore their original genetic patterns. They'll have the choice to determine their own destiny. Vex, his once proud bearing now humbled, looked at the Chen sisters. Why show mercy? After what we did to your mother, to those other species. Because that's what makes us different, Sarah replied. Mother believed that true civilization isn't measured by its technological achievements or military might, but by its capacity for justice tempered by compassion. Throughout the former empire, a new order began taking shape. Human ships worked alongside their AI partners to distribute aid, restore communications, and help newly freed worlds establish their own governments. The quantum tunneling technology that had won the war now served to rapidly deploy medical supplies and reconstruction materials. 1 month later, representatives from every known spacefaring species gathered on Earth for the founding of the new Galactic Council. The ceremony took place in a grand hall, where a memorial to Ambassador Chen stood as a reminder of the cost of tyranny and the importance of standing against it. Admiral Martinez, now serving as Earth's first representative to the Council, addressed the gathered species. We build this council not on fear or domination, but on mutual respect and cooperation. Every voice will be heard, every species represented. The AI representatives, accepted as equals in the new order, added their own unique perspective to the governance structure. Their ability to process vast amounts of data and consider multiple viewpoints simultaneously proved invaluable in creating fair policies. Sarah Chen stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled representatives, organic and digital, former enemies and new allies alike. My mother believed that the galaxy's greatest strength lay in its diversity, that every species, every individual had something unique to contribute. Today, we honor that belief by building something new together. As the first session of the Galactic Council began, a new age dawned. The galaxy learned that humanity's greatest victory hadn't come from their advanced technology or military prowess, but from their fundamental belief that justice and mercy could coexist, that enemies could become allies, and that the future belonged to those who chose to build rather than destroy.